The Small Business Rundown is the official podcast of the National Federation of Independent Business, the member-driven voice of small business. NFIB and our members advocate to keep America's small businesses strong and independent in Washington, D.C., all 50 states, and the nation's courts.
Welcome to the Small Business Rundown, your inside source for small business news and analysis in Washington, D.C. and the state capitals. I'm Adam Temple, NFIB Senior Vice President of Advocacy, and on this week's episode, I'm joined by two experts from NFIB's legal and research teams for a few tips on how to set your business on the right path to success this year. Beth Milito is the Executive Director of NFIB Small Business Legal Center. Welcome, Beth.
Thanks, Adam. I'm excited to be here.
And Holly Wade is the Executive Director of NFIB's Research Center. Welcome, Holly.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. Let's get right into it. Through the height of the pandemic, both of you helped small business owners navigate financial relief and recovery programs. You led webinars that reached thousands of small business owners and answered each of their individual questions. Not only that, but you've been deeply involved in research and advocacy on behalf of small business owners for years here at NFIB.
Yes, that's right. The Small Business Legal Center hosts a webinar the first Wednesday of every month, and we have a variety of speakers like CPAs and HR leaders who come on and offer tools for small business owners on topics like hiring, wage and hour compliance, taxes, regulations, and much more. The topics we address, they're grounded in the questions and issues we hear about from small business owners throughout the year. And Holly, tell us about the Research Center.
Great. So the Research Center conducts research to better understand how small businesses operate, the challenges that they face, and the economic conditions that impact them.
So Adam, when Holly and I were talking about today's podcast, we decided to use the theme of a restaurant. You've got the back of the house and the front of the house. And in walking through the tips, we divided them into two buckets. So we've got cleaning up and refreshing the back of the house, and then ways that a small business owner can go about refreshing and reviewing the front of the house, which is the forward-facing customer area of the business. So Holly's going to take us through some tips to clean up the back of the house, and these include some tax tips and other things related to the operations of the business, and then she'll turn it back over to me for some marketing and front of the house tips.
Wonderful. Thank you, Beth. Well, one of the main tips in the back of the house that most small business owners are very familiar with and unfortunately have to deal with often on a regular basis is the financial aspect of business operations. And so for this podcast, I have a few tips that I think might be helpful for small business owners to refresh and to think through some of the financial aspects and what they might look forward to as far as, for instance, talking with their local bank and somebody at their local bank reviewing what their financial position is for their business and seeing what options might be available in case, for instance, you're looking to expand your business, make a significant capital expenditure for your business, and might need some financial assistance in those purchases. And so always having a relationship with your banker, somebody at your local bank, is often very helpful in starting those conversations when you need them. Instead of trying to figure out, who you need to contact, what their name is, what their phone number is or email address, having that conversation before you need financial assistance is often very helpful and beneficial for small business owners in getting that conversation started. Another tip on the financial front, kind of the back of the house, as Beth was saying, is looking through all of your expenses. So doing a yearly review of all of your business expenses, seeing if they're still appropriate and relevant to your business operations, and checking through to see if there are any areas that you might decrease those costs or eliminate altogether. Some of those expenses certainly build up, and just a yearly review is often a helpful tool, helpful tip to get through and see where you might eliminate some expenses that aren't necessary anymore in operating your business. And then one of the programs, Beth and I have talked a lot about those financial programs that were available for small business owners early on in the pandemic. And one of them is still available to small business owners, and that's the Employee Retention Tax Credit. We've had a number of webinars related to this tax credit over the last couple years, and it's still available for those who qualify. It is through an amended 941 form that you would take advantage of this credit, or as we call it, the 941X, which is the amended version. And you are able to take advantage of the credit for 2020 and 2021 through the third quarter. So if you think you're eligible, we have information on our website that walks you through eligibility, what the program includes. It's a very beneficial and supportive financially program for small business owners. And you can take advantage of that program in addition to the Paycheck Protection Program. So those are not mutually exclusive. You can take advantage of both of them for those who took a PPP loan and had those dollars forgiven. You are still eligible for the ERTC if you qualify. But talk with a CPA or tax professional if you think you qualify after reviewing our basic fact sheet on the program. And talk with somebody who's familiar with the program, though somebody who's already helped small business owners in taking advantage of the credit to see if it's appropriate for you. And we have a webinar coming up in March 1st. Christy Stone, who has been a previous guest of ours in a webinar early last year in 2022, talking specifically about the Employee Retention Tax Credit, eligibility, and how you are able to get the credit, and some of the ins and outs of talking with somebody's, your tax professional or CPA, some of the questions that you might ask in relation to this program. She's a wonderful speaker on this topic. So if you're interested, you think that you might be eligible for the program, please join us on Wednesday, March 1st with me and Beth and our guest speaker, Christy Stone. And with that, I'll turn it over to Beth.
Thanks, Holly. That was great and some wonderful tips to clean up the back of the house. So now moving on to the front of the house, the fun stuff, the forward-facing public area of your business there. And speaking of webinars, too, we just had one earlier this month with Cliff Enico, who joined us to talk about selling anything. And he got into some marketing tips there. So that's what I'm going to cover here, how to market your business to both customers and employees, creating and showcasing a positive and welcoming business. It's imperative these days. Not only is this a way to attract new employees, but it's also how you can attract and keep customers. So marketing your business, think about it both to customers and employees. Marketing, so it's meant to raise brand awareness and be a pipeline. And one of the ways that you can go about doing this pretty easily is to have a good website. And we had a webinar in October. Donna Body, who is a marketing executive who now works almost exclusively with small businesses, she joined us and offered some great tips on ways that small businesses can rebrand, refresh, and update their websites. And I think one of her best tips, Holly and Adam, was that she recommended businesses take a look at the websites of other small businesses, not even just competitors, but just other small businesses. Take a look at their websites. And when you find one you like, scroll to the bottom and find out who designed it, who did it. And that's the vendor or company that you want to reach out to if you are thinking about sort of redoing or even just refreshing your website there. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Another tip, too, is consider using social media. If you have not done so, consider it. It's a great and often inexpensive way to reach a broader customer base. And also, again, you're marketing yourself to your community and possibly future employees there. And set up a marketing calendar, too. That is very important. And make sure it is doable, too. So let's go back to the social media thing there. If you haven't posted on Instagram since 2021, probably not a good idea to set up a calendar that has you posting on Instagram every single day. It's just not doable. It's not going to happen. So you want to keep it simple. Keep it simple. Keep it doable, and don't be afraid to ask for help too. So if you have employees who work for you, maybe, it's a salon and you have a stylist, but you've noticed her Instagram, her Facebook posts, her Twitter is great. And you're like, oh my goodness, she's knocking it out of the park. And she's posting, pictures of customers after she styled them and all that. Ask her if she'd be interested in taking on a new role. I mean, this is great employee development too. So all this to say, even if you can't afford outside help, hiring an outside vendor, you may have talent in your business there. So consider reaching out to other employees who might have, an interest in developing some marketing skills there. And then finally, consider your website as a way to increase sales. Even if you're not necessarily selling online, more and more people are browsing online. So they're coming to your website maybe first, taking a look, and you're drawing them in. And then all your social media should go back to the website too. You want to include links and send them back to your website. So again, getting back to my point about refreshing and redoing your website, this is the year to do it if you haven't done it in a while. Take a look at it. Pull up your website on your phone. How does your website look on a mobile device? I mean, that's also very important there. That's how, a lot of people now are looking at things. They're out in a car. Oh, gee, I need, a gift for this, kids party. There's a toy store there. What do you think they have? How does your website look on a mobile device there? So simple things you can do. And again, not difficult to maybe update and develop a new customer base too. And then just finally, I want to close out too, again, going back to the employee retention there, because we hear a lot about that, retaining and attracting employees there. And you want to be an employer of choice in your community. And you can do that in the same way that maybe you develop a customer loyalty program. Think about developing an employee loyalty program. You want to reward those high-performing employees. And make sure they stay with you. And make sure then they sell your business. Like, this is a great place to work when you have an opening. They are going to be your best advertisement for filling that vacancy there. So hopefully this has been helpful in thinking about some ways that you can refresh your business in both the back of the house and the front of the house. As Holly mentioned, we have a great webinar coming up on March 1st with Christy Stone. And she's going to offer some tax tips too. So we're heading into tax season there. So that will also be very helpful. If you haven't done so, check out Cliff Enico's webinar, How to Sell Anything to Anyone, that was offered on February 1st. Our webinars are free. They're all recorded, available online on our website, nfib.com/webinars. And again, Adam, thank you so much for inviting us here today.
Holly, Beth, this has been a great conversation. I want to thank you both for joining us with these tips for success this year. For our listeners interested in more guidance on creating a robust business and marketing plan to jumpstart your year, you'll find more information in our show notes, including a free webinar led by Beth and Holly last month with a full list of business planning keys to success for the year ahead. And now I want to thank you, the listeners, for joining us on today's Small Business Rundown. We'll be back every 2 weeks bringing you small business news and analysis from Washington, D.C. and state capitals so that you, whether you're a business owner or a supporter of one, can continue to blaze a trail.
The Small Business Rundown is brought to you by NFIB, the voice of small business. You can find us at nfib.com and on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.